Hi there, it's Kimmy from Scrap Therapy. I have a new card video for you. I have been having a lot of fun playing with penny black scene stamps. This is a technique I've learned from Heather Telford. She's an amazing designer for penny black and I just love her techniques and her cards. So I learned this technique that I'm going to show with the markers and then using embossing powder with it and then adding backgrounds and stuff. And so I learned that from her a long time ago, and now I've just been having tons of fun kind of experimenting and playing and kind of doing my own thing. So I'm going to use this stamp here. It is called Wintry Trail, and I did this one for Christmas last year, and it's super pretty, just all the sparkle and the snow, and it just looks lovely. And I was looking at these stamps that I had made some Christmas cards with and was just thinking I really want to try and make them more versatile for all different seasons. So that's why I've been playing with this. So all right, we're gonna get started. So I've got my mini Misti stamping tool, and I've got a card base. So I've taken a 8.5 by 11 piece of cardstock and I've cut it in half at 4 1/4, and I cut it in half lengthwise, and then that gives me two cards that I fold on the top, and these are a top fold card, and they are called an A2 card is their size because they're 4 1/4 by 5.5. Okay, so I've got that ready, and then I've also cut a piece of cardstock to go on the front of my card, and I've cut it just a tiny bit smaller, and I am going to cut it again after I stamp it, but I didn't want it to be too small because then it would be hard to get a stamp onto it. Okay, so my card here is 4 by 5.5. All right, so this cardstock is going to go into the corner, and this is the beauty and the magic of the Misti is that you can restamp. You can add layers and colors just by putting this paper back in the same spot every time. So I like to use the corner, and so I've just got it dropped down into the bottom corner, and I'm just going to put my magnets over top just to hold it just a bit there. Okay, then I'm going to take my penny black stamp, and I'm going to just lay that on there. It's clean and dry. Well, sort of clean. Pretty much clean. Clean and dry. There's a little glitter on there from Christmas. No surprise. So I'm going to take that. And sorry, I just found like a fuzz ball on it. Okay. And oh, sorry, I'm going to lay that on top of there like presto, just making it sure it's lined up on that side. It's nice and straight. Okay, then and sometimes stamps do this. They don't cut the foam exactly the same as the stamped image, so you've got to watch. You want to use this as your edge to keep it straight with this as your edge, not the edge of the foam. Okay, so that's on there nice, and then I'm going to close the lid and pick it up. And now my stamp is on my Misti. Okay, so now I'm not going to move this stamp at all for the duration of this whole technique. My paper might move, but that's okay. It just goes back into that corner each time. All right, so I'm going to do some coloring. I'm going to use distress markers, and I'm going to start out. This card here is going to be kind of more earth tones. I'm going to go with fall kind of colors. So I'm starting out with some, oh, sorry, no, I'm not. I was going to say starting with that, but no, I like to first take some gray ink, some dye ink, and I like using London Fog by Memento, and I'm going to put that all over this stamp, and I'm just going to give it a light dust. It doesn't need to be super dark. Oh, and but I don't want any lines. Okay, so just get some ink on there and stamp that. And I like doing that first because then when I'm coloring, if I miss an area, it's okay. It's got a little bit of gray in underneath that kind of shines through, and it actually makes the the trees look more realistic, really. So right here is kind of a little light. So I'm just going to push down some more there. There you go. That looks better. Okay, so now I'm going to take my frayed burlap marker and I'm going to use the brush end and I'm going to start to accentuate some of these trees. So I'm going to come down here with the marker and color, and I'm going to just kind of color on one side of my tree and just pull that all the way up and pull up some of this and just a little of that. Now you want to do just a little bit of color at a time and then stamp and then color some more and then stamp and color some more and stamp. And the reason we want to do it this way is so that our ink doesn't dry. The marker doesn't dry on the stamp, because if it does, it's not going to show up. Now you can take it and you can spray it with water. That completely works. So if you wanted to, you could just color everything once and then spray it with some water, and then you get a real kind of soft, kind of blurry look. So but it works and it looks neat. It's just a different way to do it, different technique, and that's kind of fun. So you can see how the picture is starting to take shape already. It's pretty awesome. So I'm going to add just some brown on the edge. And then I'm going to start to add to these trees over here. So up here, I need to kind of carry on. Right there, that one is right here. It's kind of goofy. There we go. All right, up here, this guy, he needs some. So this is where I kind of start looking at the stamp and kind of getting a bit pickier now that I've got like the main kind of big branches. Then I start to get pickier and start to look at my stamp. Keep in mind everything is reversed, right? But then that way you can start to kind of build on it. Okay, so this one right here, that's this one. This little fork right here, this guy, he needs some extra color on him. Yeah. Okay, and then I think I'm just going to add a bit up here, darken. And you can always use your finger, so if you scribble kind of like this, you can go back in with your finger and just tap it a little bit, dab some of the ink off, so that it doesn't look too sketchy, kind of like, right? You know what I mean? Like too many brush marks kind of on there. We don't want that. Okay, so I'm going to go along this tree line and I'm going to just add some color in here. And this is one of the lighter browns that I have. So I actually want to go up pretty high with this one. And then I'm going to shade with some other ones. But you see, by adding that, that gray, I don't have to worry too much about missing an area because the gray is helping me out. Okay, and I'm just going to dab my finger along there because I don't want it to look too pen marked, brush stroked. Ooh, that looks great. Okay, and I think I'm going to just add a little bit down in here, a little bit of this. Okay, that was all just done with frayed burlap. So now I'm going to take some vintage photo distress marker and I'm going to do this similar idea. So I'm going to go on some of the areas, and this is darker, so I want to just kind of highlight and kind of shade a little bit with some of this. So I'm just going to go into a few spots and kind of pull some shadowing kind of into this. See how pretty that looks? That shadow down there, it's beautiful. Right here, this tree I ended up doing, I think it dried, and it feels too much like there's a real line there, so I'm going to just add to it. Ah, that's better. Okay, and then I want to come down there, pull that across, kind of add into there. Stamp it before it dries. Oh, that's coming together. I'm going to go a little higher with my brown. And this is really the kind of playtime for me. It's just kind of drawing almost. It's kind of a coloring sketch kind of an idea. I'm going to just do a little bit of this path. It's kind of the bottom of it. And then I want to add a little up here, just a little in here. And I'm going to kind of dab at that with my finger a bit. See how the gray is showing through in behind? I just love it because it makes it look like it's bark, right? It's just amazing. So this one here, that's this guy right here. He needs a little depth in there. Some of these branches just need to be a little darker. Help accentuate it. So much better. Yeah, and then down in here. So now some of these, they need a little shadowing too. Very lightly, I'm just kind of rubbing the marker on, just really lightly. Dab it off with my finger. Oh, that looks wonderful. I know, I sound surprised, because you just never know what you're going to get. All right, so that was my, just gotta wipe my fingers here. That was my vintage photo. So now I'm going to pull out some gathered twigs, a little bit darker again, and I'm going to just really accentuate kind of some of these bottom areas that would kind of be a bit more shadowy, bit darker. Okay, so that's looking really great. I'm gonna just touch up just a couple little spots, and then I want to add some green because I still want this to look kind of like a fall picture. So I'm gonna just add some forest moss in just a few places where I notice that there's a bit of gray. Not that I want to cover up all the gray, I'm okay with it, but I just want to add a little green because this isn't a wintry scene, this is a fall scene. And I know that the trees would be more of a brown, right? Because tree bark isn't green, it's the leaves that are green. So we want to add a hint of green up in here in these areas where it would be still leafy. Nice, you can just see kind of the flavor there, just that little hint of green, that looks great. Okay, and then I'm going to come down here, this little spot right there, I want this to be really green. Because this is still my grass. Though the more color I add, it's going to look more black, right? So you've got to be careful, which is kind of what happened there. And right there. Okay, I'm really loving it. I think I'm almost done. Beautiful. Okay, so now that I have it looking like that, I'm going to take a baby wipe and I'm going to wipe my stamp clean. And I'm not going to move my stamp, so I need to be careful when I'm cleaning that I don't move it, because if I move it, then I have to start all over, because there's just no way I could match up the stamp to this image now if I move the stamp or move the paper. Well, I can move the paper, right, because I'm just going to put it back into that corner, but I can't move the stamp. Okay, so we're going to just dry that off a little. All right, make sure my stamp is, or sorry, my paper is nice and tight and snug into the corner. Okay, so then we're going to use some Versamark, just watermark clear ink, and we're going to use some clear embossing powder. So I'm going to stamp it all over the whole stamp. Okay, and then put the clear powder on. Okay, I'm going to heat emboss that, and then I'll come right back. Okay, so my image is heat embossed, it's set, and I love the way it looks already. It's amazing how the embossing powder, just the clear, just brightens and kind of crisps up all of the colors so they look so vibrant. I just love it. So for this card, I'm going to use Distress Oxides with this one. And I've got a whole ton of colors here. So I'm going to put on some fired brick. And I'm going to just grab actually a piece of paper to put under my card so that if I get ink all over, I don't have to wipe it up. Okay, so I always start on the edge of my card or on the bottom, and then I work my way in. If I was to just start right here, I'd go like this, and if I was in the middle, I might end up with these really big circle marks, and I don't want that. So I like to start on an edge so that I get a nice smooth buff of color on there, and I can kind of work my way in. Okay, so we're going to put some red. This is the fired brick in here. So pretty. What a beautiful color. It's it's much more kind of dusty, kind of a rose color than the bright fired brick of the Distress inks. So these are the oxides. All right, so I'm going to add a little bit of the spiced marmalade. There's just something about orange red skies. I just love it. And I'm going to leave that there. And then I'm going to take a scrap piece of paper, a little mask. I'm going to put that along there. And then I'm going to use fossilized amber along the bottom. So because we've set the stamp with the clear embossing powder, then whatever we put over top isn't going to stick to where we've embossed. That's the beauty of this. So it's such a neat technique. Although, I'm sure, oh, it's the gray from underneath. Huh, that's cool. Okay, so we're going to go like that, pull that away. That was our fossilized amber. Okay, so now I'm going to do the bottom. And remember, I'm trying to keep this a fall card. So I'm going to use some peeled paint, Distress Oxide. And I am going to, this time, I'm going to actually use my mask, my little scrap paper. I'm going to just rip it along here because I kind of want to create a hill here. And I don't want it to be too mountainous. Okay, so I want to just rip there, and then I'm going to kind of go like this so that I've kind of got this hill look to it, okay? And actually, sorry, I need to put that there, and I need to put this here so I don't get it up there in my sky too much. Okay, all right. So this is the trick. I'm going to hold these two. Pull that away. See, I've kind of got this jaggedy look to it. Okay, so I'm going to take this and I'm going to add some green in here. And I'm going to go like this, trying to make it look like a path. Okay, there's the green. Now I'm going to use a little Vintage Photo Distress Oxide, and I'm going to try and just kind of carefully just kind of buff in a little bit of the oxide, the Vintage Photo Distress Oxide. Just gently buffing in a little bit so it kind of looks like dirt, right? It looks like grass. Nice. Okay, and I think actually I love it, but I think I want to add just a little bit more of the green. Although I am going to add, whoops, we do not want that circle mark there. Okay, there. Cool. It looks kind of like a road, and right? They've got all, kind of all these hills, kind of this shift. Got a little white spot up there. We need to buff in our green. Okay, that looks really good. All right, so now what I'm going to do, the great thing with Distress Oxides is you could leave it like this if you wanted to. It's beautiful, but I'm not going to. I'm going to take some water and I'm going to spritz a little bit of water onto it. And I'm going to heat it. So now I'm just flicking some water onto it, some bigger spots of water all over, and then I'm going to heat it. You see with the Distress Oxide, it goes speckly. Okay, so I want to just be careful because by heating it, the embossed part is also going to be wet again, right? It'll be sticky again, so you need to be careful not to touch it for a little bit. There, it's already good, already cooled off. Okay, so I'm going to go back in and I'm going to add some more color. So a little bit more fossilized amber. A little bit more of the fired brick. A little bit more of the spice marmalade. Okay, and I'm going to add just a tiny bit of broken china Distress Oxide around the bottom, kind of give it a blue flavor. Just a little bit up in there. Okay, there's really no wrong to this. And then I'm going to add a bit more green. And a bit more of my vintage photo. Why not? Very pretty. Okay, I'm gonna splatter some paint on, or some water on there again. Sorry, not paint. You can see the color already oxidizing. Okay, and then I'm going to dry. So the beauty of the oxides is that you can just keep doing this and doing this and doing this and kind of get this splotchy look to it. It's just amazing. The other thing you can do is you can take and go right onto your craft mat. So I'm going to take a little bit of the orange. No, actually, let's try the yellow and see how that shows up. Put a little bit on my mat. Okay. Put my water bottle back together. And then spray, and then now just kind of dip into the top corner there. See how the yellow is just picking up? It's highlighting. Very nice. Very nice. Okay, so then I'm going to just give that a little wipe. And then I'm going to pick a color for the bottom. And I think I'm going going to do the green. Let's add some more green because we want it to look like it's still fall. See all those little green speckles in there? We don't want to go up too high. We don't want to go into our sky. But the less water we add, the more concentrated the color is going to be. So we've got some really nice speckles kind of going on there. That looks really pretty. Okay, and then I think I'll just give it a quick dry, and then I'm going to add some red to the top. So I'm going to take some of the red fired brick Distress Oxide, stick that on my mat, spray a little bit of water. I really don't want a lot because I kind of want that to be pretty concentrated. So I just kind of keep checking the front just to see what it looks like, make sure I like it, and I love the colors. Yeah, it looks beautiful. Okay, so I'm going to dry that up, and then we'll move on to our next step. Okay, so I've got my image all dried up, and I trimmed it down to go on my card, and it is now 3.5 inches wide, and it's the same 5.5 inches tall. Okay, and then I also cut a gray piece of cardstock, and this one is 4 inches wide and 5.5 inches tall. And then I still have my card base, which is 4 1/4 by 5.5. Okay, so got those cut and ready, and I've got a bunch of leaves that I die cut. So I want to take and buff on some colors because I was going for a fall look with this. So I'm just going to buff on a little bit of the spice marmalade. Kind of just doing it random all over the place on the leaves. Okay, then I'm going to add some fired brick, still using the oxides. Blending them so that you don't get any lines. We want them to look natural. Now just a bit of fossilized amber to kind of blend everything together. Some of them are pretty good already. And let's see. Oh, those are going to look nice. They're bold, but yeah, but they're nice and they kind of go with it too. Okay, I also want to add a little bit of the Vintage Photo Distress Oxide just to the edges of the leaves to darken them a little bit in a few spots, just a few. Okay, gonna set those aside. All right, so I've got my leaves now, and I'm gonna just pop those off of there. And I'm gonna put my card together. I've pre-taped it. Okay, and I want to line it up, centering it. Sorry if you get my hair in the picture, but I gotta get in there and make sure it's straight. What the heck is that? Oh, there we go. Okay, nice. Firm that down. Okay, and then I'm gonna put this onto the white card. If you have sequin that hangs over the edge, kind of like this little spot right here, I just roll it back. I don't worry about getting my scissors out and finicky work like that. I just roll it back. Okay, so I'm gonna center it along the top here. Ta-da! Beautiful. Okay, so I've cut out some letters, a word here. It says happy birthday, and we're going to place that on first. Actually, no. We're going to do a little cluster of leaves at the bottom. So instead of a bed of roses, we've got a bed of leaves going on here. And we've got just a few little baby ones that are going to go up here in the tree. So I think kind of like that and like that, kind of make it look like they're falling. Ooh, that looks great. Don't you love it when a plan comes together? I do. So visually, I have my little triangle going. If you've heard me or listened to me teach before, I like to have kind of an odd shaped triangle. So I would never put these two perfectly in line together, or these two. It needs to be an odd shaped triangle so that your eye kind of moves from one to the next. And then down here at the bottom, I have this really cool little cluster of leaves, and I'm just going to glue on my happy birthday sentiment right on top. And the birthday is going to go there, and the happy is going to go there. And that looks really nice. What a perfect card for your friend or family member that has a birthday in the fall. So I'm going to just lay this down a little bit just to kind of hold that so that that'll glue down nice and firm there. And then I think we're done. So I'll put that back on to let that dry, but I just wanted to show you what it looks like. So pretty awesome, just this technique with a penny black stamp and the beautiful Distress Oxides by Tim Holtz. Thanks so much for watching, and check out our other videos on scraptherapy.ca. Click on our YouTube channel, Scrap Therapy, or check out our Facebook page, Scrap Therapy, Prince George. Thanks so much. Have a super duper imaginative and creative day. Bye.